Hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another installment of Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I'm your host, Miss Bumblebee, and today, uh, by uh, by the democratic process, we have selected to discuss a unique cryptid out of Africa called the Nandy Bear. And to present this to us, I pulled up Crash Course in Cryptozoology, and they did this episode pretty recently. I recommend this channel, it's a fun channel. But yeah, Nandy Bear, 2 months ago they did this. So we are going to jump right in and give it, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Give it a shot. Let's go. This intro, I will keep it muted for this intro. This intro reminds me of like old PC games that they used to have. They're like they called them like Wolfenstein clones or Doom clones, but where you just like wander around 3D hallways and there's just stuff. But sometimes there's enemies and you can shoot and stuff. But sometimes you just wander around and there's just stuff. But very very 90s. Love it. All right, unmuted. The Schindler Nandy Bear track.
Hi, and welcome to Crash Course Cryptozoology. In the
Hi.
early to mid 20th century, a strange mystery began to unfold in western Kenya and Africa, specifically in what is now known as Nandi County, named for the local Nandi people who inhabit the area. The name of the Nandi people is also applied to this mystery animal reported from the region during this time period, which became known as the Nandy Bear. For those unfamiliar with the general gist of the story, the Nandy Bear had been referenced as a mystery animal in Kenya at least as early as 1911, and some sources even state 1910. The earliest archived writings on the Nandy Bear appear in the Journal of the East Africa and Uganda Natural History Society, in the 1911 edition. The Nandy Bear in that writing is described as a large, four-legged mammal of some kind that resembles a bear or hyena.
I, too, am a large... Oh, hold on, it's peeking again. Pull that down a little bit. I, too, am a large, four-legged mammal. Am I a Nandy Bear? Am I breathe a Nandy Bear? Am I saying it wrong? Am I saying Nandy wrong? Nandi? Nandi? Is it Nandi? Nundi? Nandi? I don't know. I probably say it wrong too.
But doesn't particularly match either of the two descriptions accurately. Most of the sightings took place along and during the building of the Magadi Railway, which today runs from Magadi to Kanza in Kenya. The railway was constructed during the early to mid-1910s, and both locals and British employees who had been deployed to Kenya for this project reported seeing or finding sign of these strange animals that had not yet been documented. This is just a general overview.
I mean, I have four limbs though, Ember. There are sexual undertones in the whole xenomorph design. It's all parts of it are sex organs, right? There are phallic symbols and vaginal symbols and things like that. Vulvic symbols, is that the proper word? To both to both sides of it. So Geiger's a wild a wild artist. He's builds a whole world out of phalluses and vagines. Bobs and vagines. Yeah.
Of the Nandy Bear, and really there's a lot more to say about it. Before diving into this particular case, it is important to note that One of the difficult things about the Nandi Bear case isn't just that sightings essentially drop off after the mid-20th century, with the exception of some more recent reports such as one taking place in the 1980s, but that the identity and description of the Nandi Bear have been particularly difficult to really set in stone. Of course, other potential mystery animals can be visually described from sightings, and so is the Nandi Bear, but there are different theories.
I don't know, Sumami. Look on the underside of a face hugger. I think it's pretty, yeah. I don't know if that's a real word. I just made it up. Vulvic.
On what those sightings point to for a specific kind of animal. Of course, there's the African bear theory, which is where the Nandi Bear also derives part of its name. But there are also theories about oversized hyenas and even types of baboons that may not yet be known to science. This video is not necessarily about those theories, but they are important to the Nandi Bear case being discussed in the video. In or around 1913, a worker on the Magai...
So, the Nandi Bear is one of these. It's like there's an African tradition with like folklore to when they were building the rails for the different face huggers are the worst ovipositors. You're not wrong, but there's the folklore that was built around like all over. Oh no, we're getting into ectoplasm. Yeah, you're going to get slimed. You are all going to get slimed later. I want to slime all of you, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to happen. Don't try to run. But like folklore built around it. Some of it's like based on real things, real occurrences, or just people not understanding what they were experiencing. But African wildlife is wild. The thing is that there aren't very many plantigrade animals, or carnivores in Africa. Not any big ones south of the Sahara. Well, in Africa, the African continent in general anymore, but there used to be the Atlas bear that lived in the Atlas Mountains in North Africa, north of the Sahara, the same place that Barbary lions and Barbary leopards and Barbary apes and all the Barbary coast, I guess is the best way to describe it. The mountain range in the Barbary coast is called the Atlas Mountains, and that is where the last vestige of plantigrade caniform, or is it caniform? Yeah, caniformy carnivores held out, and then now there's like none. So the biggest plantigrade carnivore in Africa is the honey badger, the rattle. They're big. They're just not that big.
The railway discovered and documented tracks he had found that locals attributed to the Nandi Bear, or what is in their dialect the chemosit. Whether or not these two things are a one-to-one equation of each other is kind of in question, but the thing that people were calling Nandi Bear was originally, according to the locals, what was called chemosit. As that evolved over time, that may have changed, but that was the general idea.
There was, in Africa, oh my gosh, I gotta show you guys, this is cool. Hold on. Simba, there we go. So there was this critter. Is there a short video on it? Yeah, we'll watch that one from not the best channel, but it'll be all right. All right, here we're gonna pull this over here because this thing was huge and it lived in Africa. And
Kubwa kudakafrika, also known as the big lion from Africa. This predator was one of the largest carnivores to ever roam the continent, with a weight estimated at around 1,500 pounds. Simba Kubwa kudakafrika lived around 22 million years ago, during the Oligocene epoch, and was found in what is now Kenya. Simba Kubwa kudakafrika was a skilled hunter that preyed on a wide range of animals, including horses, rhinos, and even other carnivores. Simbacuba kudakafrika had a unique skull structure that gave it an incredibly powerful bite, allowing it to easily crush bones and take down large prey. Simbacuba kudakafrika went extinct around 20 million years ago, possibly due to competition with other carnivores and changes in the environment. Despite its short time on Earth, it remains one of the most impressive and fearsome predators to ever live in Africa.
Yeah, so that was this big beast that lived in Africa 20 million years ago. But the important thing to remember about it also is that it's not a carnivoran. It's a hyenadontid. You see where the order hyenodont, not carnivora, which means it belonged to these giant monster bone crusher creatures that dominated mostly the early Paleocene, but well into the Miocene, which is pretty impressive. And Simbacuba was one of the later ones too in the Miocene. These guys were huge, and they were plantigrade, but they were not. They were not carnivorans. But these jaws, look at these jaws. Look how bone crushing these guys are. They got this one. So these are the canines up here, but when it comes to differentiating hyenodontids from carnivorans, you look at the carcinal teeth, and they're kind of like that's these crushing teeth that they have in the back. This one's missing some of its carcinal teeth, but they also retain molars because you got to be able to chew too. But aren't those freaking cool? I don't need to zoom in that much. Jesus. All right. Anyway, back to the Nandy Bear. No, not you, Fernando. We're not having you cover Nandy Bear today. I was just listening to Fernando talk about it before the show. All right. Oh, hold on. Big Zebra says, am I too late for the ectoplasm investigation? There was a weird guy in Winnipeg who did a lot of that, and I'm so very curious. We got tons of ectoplasmic content ahead. We got to get through the Nandy Bear first. Yeah, but yes, dentition reveals so much about an organism.
And these tracks are very interesting because they still, despite some people's conclusions, seem to defy a conventional explanation. Most sources attribute the finding of the tracks and their recording to a Fritz Schindler who worked on the Magadi Railway. There are databases that confirm that a Fritz Schindler did in fact work on the Magadi Railway during this time period. However, not every single source on these tracks attributes them to Schindler. There are a couple that indicate C.W. Hobbs, someone else who was in the area at the time, a British anthropologist, had found
And it's important to remember that Fritz was the nickname for anybody German or with a German or Dutch accent would have been, right? Maybe even into other parts of Europe if the people didn't know the accent very well.
Recorded these tracks. However, there's some lack of clarity about this, as the source is usually given as writing that C.W. Hobbs included in the aforementioned Journal of East Africa and Uganda Natural History Society. Those sources indicate that the tracks were found in 1910 by C.W. Hobbs and written about in that year's edition. However, looking through at least archived versions of that journal don't yield any results for even mentions of the Nandy Bear, let alone any tracks. However, to reiterate, the following year's edition, 1911, does have C.W. Hobbs.
We're tracking Nandy Bear, so Nandy Bear tracks don't look like Bigfoot tracks. Bigfoot tracks look like... here, watch the chat. Bigfoot tracks look like that. If you want to leave Bigfoot tracks like that, all you got to do is join the channel and just be a Hive member subscriber. You can be a Cryptic Creeper. You want to do that? Yeah.
Writing about the Nandi bear, a description of these tracks still seems to be lacking, again, at least in those archived versions. On the other hand, even though it does seem likely that this Fritz Schindler was the person who discovered and recorded these tracks, not much is actually known about Fritz. It's even indicated in some databases that Fritz was a common nickname given by British people to those who had German or Dutch last names. While his last name was probably Schindler, there is some room for possibility that his first name wasn't actually Fritz. Those sources that mention him do of course name him Fritz Schindler, including when Bernard Heuvelmans discusses the tracks in his cryptozoology book On the Track of Unknown Animals.
So, this is the godfather of cryptozoology, Bernard Heuvelman. For the uninitiated, he kind of coined, well, he didn't just kind of, he coined the term cryptozoology. Along with Ivan T. Sanderson, they established the field of research and wrote many books on it. As you can see, in the early days, it wasn't all Bigfoot and sea monsters. It was animals that were mysterious, that weren't well understood, or that weren't confirmed yet by science to exist. Even like people in the southern hemisphere knew about a lot of these animals and organisms that science of the west of Europe and didn't know much about yet, but they people that lived there knew they existed, right? And parsing those from the folk traditions of the peoples in those regions. And it's like I was talking about when I did an interview. I did an interview with Hell's Bells recently. Yeah, you should go check that out. But not right now though, because it's live from the Hive time. But I was talking about how the different peoples in the Brazilian rainforest, for instance, all the different phenotypes, because there's so much jaguar diversity in that basin, that all the different phenotypes of jaguar were considered a unique organism and a unique animal to the people that lived there. So they had different names for all of them, but it didn't mean that there were different species. They're just different phenotypes. Tsunami. Yeah, I need ectoplasm jokes, but let's do the ectoplasm jokes during the ectoplasm segment. You can make bear jokes. If you all are having difficulty making bear jokes, I'm sort of disappointed in you. As queer as my community is, come on, some bear jokes are easy picking. And African bear jokes, oh yeah. Bring me the African bear jokes. Give me them Nandi bear daddy jokes.
Animals. Naming and some of the more clarity lacking points aside, what is interesting about these tracks? Bernard Heuvelmans, who is often considered the father of cryptozoology, himself was skeptical of these tracks, remarking that they appear to be two Rattel prints superimposed upon each other. Rattel is another name for the African honey badger. On almost
we stand the African honey badger in this chat too. So, like, I wish that there was a member of the mustelid family that was bigger, like pantherine size, just to know it existed. The biggest honey badgers are pretty big. They're up there with the biggest. So wolverines are huge. Outside of otters, wolverines are the biggest mustelids, but they're nowhere near panther size, unless you say like a clouded leopard size, which yeah, they are. They're about the size of a clouded leopard. But it would be cool to have the Nandi bear turn out to be a giant mustelid, a giant honey badger. Now, the sea otters are the biggest, right? Sea otters are huge, but that's because sea otters are like people size, but like small people, not big chunky Americans like most of us, but like most of the world's not that big though. Most the average weight of a adult human is not as high as it might seem when you're in Texas.
Every front, Hoogelmans had a really solid point of analysis here. Honey badgers, of course, are extremely anatomically similar to other badgers found around the world, and looking at...
No, they're not. They're not even that closely related to other badgers you see around the world. Well, I mean, other than the fact that they're all mustelids, some badgers are closely related to each other or to like the European badger and the North American badger. They're related, but distantly. But this guy's even more distantly related. This guy, rattles, I believe, are more closely related to like martins than they are to. How big are badgers? Like which badgers? Honey badgers? Let me see if I can find a picture of someone holding a honey badger. They don't really like to be held. They're not huge. Let me see. Here's a dude holding one for scale. They're big for a member of the weasel family. They're not huge though.
Photos that I was able to track down of Eurasian badger prints that are superimposed over each other, i.e. the hind print and the foreprint overlap. The shape is almost exactly right. Looking at the Schindler track, it has a pretty broad but in the middle curved pad with a long heel. These 5 pretty equidistant digits that are all roughly the same size that span over the top curve of the print, and even short claw imprints left.
But that would be a huge freaking, because this is 3.5 inches across. That's like that wide, right? That honey badger would be the size of a freaking like you saw the one I just showed you a picture of. It'd be the size of like a leopard with feet that big.
Dirt, which is a pretty good way to describe, for example, this Eurasian badger track, albeit the claws seem a bit less curved as they actually dug into.
Me too, Sumami. That's how I'm gonna die. Actually, is befriending some wild animal that's going to decide I'm a better food than friend.
To the earth and left behind more linear impressions. However, there does seem to be some reason to question this particular comparison, and that would be the size of Schindler's prints. Having been found in the early 1900s, it is...
Now, don't get me wrong. People will exaggerate the size of a honey badger with forced perspective. Check this out. Like this, to make it look bigger than it is. But that is forced perspective. Making it look like it's the size of a wolverine or a wolf. I said no, Fernando. Stop.
Likely that Schindler, who was at the very least employed by a British company, was using what was called the Imperial British System of Measurement. Schindler included measurements in his initial illustration of the track, which is recreated by Hoogelmans in On the Track of Unknown Animals, and appears to indicate...
Do not put any animal in a trebuchet. No. Just don't.
That the length of the pad of the foot is about 5.5 inches, while the width is more like 3.5. The thing about the British imperial system, which was again the case in Britain before they adopted the metric system in the latter half of the 20th century, is that there were measurements smaller than inches, but they were not centimeters, and they were divided differently. They were divided in such a way that the measurement below inches, known as a barleycorn, was about 1/3 of an inch, meaning that if, for whatever reason, Schindler had been deciding
So there were
to
3
measure...
barleycorns in an inch? Okay. I think dividing inches into quarters are all right. Pumpkins and watermelons go in trebuchets. Yeah, but they're not aminals. A chubby demon child kitty who wants to destroy everything. Oh, you're going to put... Well, if Baby Cakes willingly gets into the trebuchet and she wants to cause maximum destruction wherever she lands, then I consent to that, okay? I'm not telling Baby Cake how to live her life. If she likes to fly through the air and land on people claws first, that's her prerogative.
This print in terms smaller than inches, so likely in barleycorns. He probably wouldn't have written 3 barleycorns or 5 barleycorns. He probably would have written 1 inch or 1 inch and 2 barleycorns. Instead, though, we do have 5.5 and 3.5, and on top of all of that, the inch marker that we use today, which is the same as a quotation, is used here, and that was still, at the time, the marker used for inches in the British imperial measurement system. By all accounts...
Yeah, if you want advice on how to befriend corvids, I would recommend going back and looking through Sumami's channel. She's chronicled her journey of befriending Flotsam and Jetsam, the crows on outside her property. And she gives them eggs. I did not ever think about that, like cooked eggs.
That is far too large to belong to any known species of badger, let alone the African honey badger.
I want a honey badger that's big, though. That's that big. I want it to exist. It doesn't have to be a honey badger. It can be like any kind of mustelid. I just want a giant mustelid like that. Please? My cute face isn't as effective when I'm not all dolled up, but...
If we were to size up a badger so that a flat paw placed on the ground was as large as that print, keeping in mind the idea that the prints are superimposed, meaning that only half of each foot is registered, equaling about the same size as one regular foot. That produces...
Yeah, the metric system is far superior in every way. And I'm a stupid American, so I still use feet and inches for the most part. Just because my brain's already wired to process that. When it comes to measuring little things, even when I talk about centimeters, I generally derive things from 30 centimeters being a foot to help me visualize it. It's like 30 centimeters, then 15 centimeters is like that, right? So, it helps my brain to process it, even though I know it's a superior system. It's the way I was raised.
A badger that is leaps and bounds larger than any badger is supposed to get. So even if it resembles a honey badger, but it's not one, what could the track be in terms of known animals? Weirdly enough, that is where we run out of comparisons known to Africa. Although the Nandi bear has been likened and even mistaken in some cases with hyenas or with larger baboons,
hyenas are digigrade. They run on their toes. So hyenas are digigrade. Most cursorial animals are that they run on the very tips of their toes, and just have this I gotta keep it on camera. This part of their palm and their toes touching the ground, where that's called digigrade. And most all ungulates are digigrade, or like things with hooves. They're standing on the tips of their toes. But bears and mustelids the ancestors of seals, all were plantigrade, which means that they walked with their full palm on the ground, right? Now, the rattle is plantigrade, but a hyena is digigrade.
The tracks don't resemble a canine or a baboon to any real extent. The closest known animal is definitely the honey badger. Again, at least in Africa. Elsewhere in the world, there are extremely close matches. Those matches happen to be the grizzly bear and the polar bear.
Yeah.
There was only one bear species.
But we don't think that there's polar bears roaming around in equatorial Africa. As far as brown bear species, though?
At least in recent timescales, known to Africa, and that was the Atlas bear. The Atlas bear is mainly known from records kept by the Roman Empire, but in reality, they lasted very long into the modern age, going extinct officially sometime in the late 19th century. Unrelated to
36 barley corns is a foot. Okay. Dropping just did you still learn barley corns when you were in school, Spooky? Was that something they were still teaching about?
the Nandy Bear, there are some unconfirmed sightings of what people believed to be living Atlas bear specimens, specifically in the 1930s. And there is some interesting reasons to put a little bit of stock in this. For example, on one particular case, researchers showing illustrations of animals to locals found that at least one local identified...
Oh, I'm still not used to seeing my own face for that long without eyeliner on. Get over it, bitch. You look fine. You look good. Just for you a little bit.
illustration of the character Baloo from the Jungle Book, who is in fact a bear, with what they called the chemosit. What's interesting about this illustration is it does have some similarities to more descriptive sightings of the Nandy Bear, mainly the fact that it has this large hump on the back and a sloping spine, similar to a hyena where the back legs are actually shorter than the front legs. Atlas bears also had some features that it seems like are identified with the Nandy Bear, including that very stocky body. However, there are some differences. The Nandy Bear, for example, kind of has an inconsistent description of the length of the face.
I want to also point out that the giant forest hogs live in Nandy Bear habitat too. And if you've never seen an African giant forest hog, they are basically like Klingon pigs. Look at this guy. Yeah, basically just a Klingon pig. That's a good way to describe it. All right, like we're gonna get up close and personal with these guys. Look at those that's a broken tusk, but look at their faces. Like you don't want to. Like you see something like that in the woods, like while you're working, like you're clearing brush for the railroad tracks to come through, and you see this face come charging out of the woods at you. Yeah. Make you think twice. Look at that. Vicious, savage even. No, a herd of them? Yeah, you run into a herd of them in the woods? That's going to scare ya.
Whereas we are aware that the Atlas bear had a relatively short face and relatively short claws. Funny enough, the short claws do kind of remind one of Schindler's Track. So, there are some differences between what we know of the Atlas bear and what we suspect of the Nandy Bear, or at least what is described often of the Nandy Bear. It doesn't seem like anything non-Ursine can comfortably account for Schindler's Track, if the track is, of course, accurately recorded. If that is the case...
Love you, Aunt Jer. You're a sweetheart. I don't know if anybody missed at the beginning of the show. I'm not wearing makeup because I got cold and my eyes are all goopy. So I decided to go sans makeup. Also, like I said, I feel like I actually look pretty without my makeup on. I've come far enough in my transition that I'm not as is bothered by it, but when I catch myself at certain angles and things like that, it bothers me. I'm just like the rest of the world. There's stuff about my appearance that I would change if I could. But I love y'all and appreciate your support. Yeah, Dr. Kip, where are you? Why are we Kipless? Kipless in the Hive.
What can we tell about the bear, or at least about the animal that made this track? If it is a bear, there's a few things that we can tell.
I am doing the Pamela Anderson thing, yes, but mostly because I'm sick and because I'm sick and sinusy, which means my face is also extra poofy underneath because my sinuses are swelled up under my eyes right here, and on the sides of my nose right here. These feel like they're swelled up. I don't know if you can see it or not, but they feel like they are.
One is that if it does have some anatomical and proportional similarity with other known bears, this appeared to be a relatively smaller specimen. Maybe that means that it was juvenile, maybe it means that these specimens don't grow very large. It's simple.
Bears are an excellent example of what they call Bergman's rule, which is more of a guideline. But the closer to the equator a species gets, it gets smaller in body size, right? Which makes sense because you're talking, well, at least with mammals, because you're talking about heat retention. Large bodies hold heat a lot better. That's why things get bigger. Get bigger up towards the poles. That's why things get bigger in the ocean too, like whales, because they need that blubber. And bears do that too. The further north you go, the larger the bears. You got polar bears, which are huge monster mammoth bears. In the north, and then brown bears and grizzly bears, and other brown bear species are in the north all the way down through the temperate zones, but the subspecies get smaller the further south you go, and then in the more temperate forest you get more black bears, but you get down into the south, you'll run into sun bears, which when you get close to the equator, they're the equatorial bears, and they're just little guys. They're just little bitty guys. They're about the adults do get bigger, but I mean can get pretty big. But when it comes to bears, they're tiny. Sun bears are just tiny. They're I'm trying to think of a good comparison. They're smaller than a panda. What's something close to the size of a sun bear? A wombat, maybe? But some people don't really know how big a wombat is either. Let me just get a picture of somebody holding a sun bear. And that, the thing I like about sun bears too is that the Asian black bears are sometimes called moon bears. So you have sun bears and moon bears, which is super cute. The sun bear is the one that was on that video that everybody was freaking out about, saying that it was a person in a suit. But here we go. You guys check this out. Oh, stop it. Never mind. That's a cub. There's a good picture of this guy sitting with one on a spread out and measuring it and everything. Security check required is the bullshit that it's giving me, though, which is weird. Oh well, I'll just pull it over like this so y'all can see what it. Yeah, that's an average size sun bear. Not huge, not big. They can get, I mean, here's a good example of a fairly large sun bear right here. Look at this one. So cute. So I guess a large dog is a good comparison. So tropical, the point is tropical bears would be smaller, just in general.
That this is a small specimen of a larger animal than something like a badger that has grown close to 5 times what it's supposed to get to. Even with this smaller size, though, there are other clues about the body that this print might be telling us if it is a bear. The particularly wide and rectangular shape of the paw, for example, is something that we see in bears that attain certain muscular proportions. In particular, this adaptation appears to be present in bears that have high shoulders.
Have you held a sun bear, Big Zebra? Don't you hold back on me. If you've held a sun bear, you have to tell me. Yeah, there's no bear that you want to cuddle with, like for real. There's a bear that you want to cuddle with. Every bear you want to cuddle with, but there's no bear that you want to cuddle with. Even a panda will wreck you. Like, you ever watch the videos of the people who get into the panda cage because they think pandas are living teddy bears and they get mauled? The good thing is the pandas usually go for the legs, so they rarely kill anybody. But yeah, a panda will wrap itself around your leg, sink its claws and teeth into your leg, and just. And if it's a big panda, it may bite into your hip or your butt too, or a really big one might even grab a hold of you straight on. But.
Or haunch muscles. The Nandi bear, of course, was consistently described as having those large sets of haunches.
So big dog is like a perfect, big dog is the perfect comparison. Then big zebra, a sun bear, the smallest bear, is as big as a big dog.
And it does seem like this track, comparing it to other bear tracks, is consistent with an adaptation to account for those muscular proportions, especially if they're drastic, like in the Nandi bear, where the back even slopes smaller than the shoulders. As far as can be told, if the measurements
the shoulder hump thing is a very brown bear characteristic, right? Yeah, danger cuddles. You want some danger cuddles with a bear? I mean, to each their own. I often talk about that I should be eaten by a great white shark should be how I die. So, and I've even talked to Bo, and I say, when I get to that point in my life, I need you to either take me or wheel me out, whatever. I pretend I'm in a wheelchair and I'm old, and just dump me in the sea and shark-infested waters. But if I get eaten by a tiger shark or a bull shark instead of a great white shark, I'll be very disappointed. I'll be very disappointed.
Accurate. This does appear to be an ursine paw print of some sort. Whether or not that's an Atlas bear or the same animal that is called the Nandi bear is, of course, impossible to conclusively discern. But if this is a bear print, then it belongs to a bear that has the same anatomical features that the Nandi bear has been described with. And even though it might be smaller, we don't have tracks in Africa that match this animal outside of this example. Meaning that, again, if the recording of this print is
let's
accurate...
look at a sloth bear or a sun bear track. See if it matches. Let's do it. Because somebody could release a sun bear into Africa. It'd be a lot more reasonable than someone releasing a grizzly bear. I don't think a grizzly bear would thrive very well in Africa, to be frank. But there's artistic represent. Okay, here we go. That's a brown bear track. All right, here, let's look at this. Here, come here. Come over here so I can show you to everybody. All right, so here's some different images of the bottom of their feet. Give you an idea of what to expect looking at them. So someone could purchase these, right? Someone can purchase the literal bear, the bottom of a bear's foot, and make bear tracks anywhere they want. So it's important to keep that shit in mind too. This isn't expensive either. It's like you're talking taxidermy money, but not too bad. I guess this is actually supposed to be. Well, it doesn't look, that does not look like a sun bear though. A sun bear's tracks. It gives us this. There's just general bear tracks. It gives us lots of pictures of sun bears, and we know what the bottom of their feet look like. But their gait is going to be important too. The gait is always going to be important. I know it's dangerous to go through Google search results like this, but I'm hoping that the combination of sun, bear, and tracks doesn't pull up anything explicit. But I'm gambling here, so I'm going to give up before I get too far into it.
Right. We are looking at the print of an animal that, whether it's known in the annals of our history or not, is not currently supposed to exist. And yet, we have the Schindler track. I hope everyone has enjoyed this video and has enjoyed the new style that I'm going for with these videos. I feel really reinvigorated making this particular video because this is a case...
Yeah, I want to look for sharks and manatees when I come to Florida. I was telling Todd that the other day. I said, hey, y'all need to take me to where we can see manatees because I want to see them.
I've been looking at for quite some time. I also want to take this moment to thank Eli Watson. He's a researcher from...
Okay. So, and this was Crash Course in Crash Course Cryptozoology. Looks like they got some pretty good stuff. This is actually their most recent video. So if you like this, go check them out. They got a video from a little while back about the Barangeur, which we've covered. They cover a lot of the same stuff that we've covered. They do kind of pre-recorded content instead of a live review of it, but pretty good stuff. We've watched a few of them. The Daubert Chew, which is that big otter from Ireland. I need to put that on the polls at some point. Alleged giant spider footage from Mozambique. Yeah, so there's all kinds of cool topics that they cover, and it's a lot of the same stuff. So if you like cryptozoology, I recommend this channel. Am I subscribed? Yeah, I'm subscribed. But you know what I need to do? I need to ring the bell so I get all the notifications. And I recommend that you go subscribe to this channel too. All right, so how long is Fernando's rant about this?
Hello everybody, this is Fernando
23
for the
minutes.
latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Another video based on your suggestions here, this time having to do with a monster that's located
Alright, so here's what I'm going to do.
And has a very notorious reputation.
We have about...
apparently when it comes to this...
We have about 10 more minutes left for Cryptic Corner. I'm going to speed him up.
This particular cryptid, it's essentially what their Loch Ness monster is, what their version of a Sasquatch is, called the Nandi Bear, which, according to all the information that I looked up that I'm about to present to you here, it's still kind of hard to discern exactly what it is. And you'll know what I mean about this in a few minutes when I go over possible explanations as far as what the Nandi Bear is exactly. So, as far as the Nandi Bear, the history tied to it, here's what it is. It's a particular monster that's found in Africa, particularly in the east area.
I did get to ride an elephant too. I rode an elephant at the circus. I rode a camel at the circus. I held a lion cub or tiger cub. I can't remember. Got my picture taken with a monkey that had its teeth removed. Yeah, people. There's still those traveling zoo things that go around that have like they'll have like a leopard in a kennel, like a dog kennel, and they'll be like, "Yeah, come see the animals. Pay $5 to come see the animals, poor creatures."
Of Kenya. And the reason why it's called a Nandi bear is because there's a tribe there called the Nandi tribe. They were the ones that have discovered this particular monster, and they're the ones that frequently cite its visits. So just through basic association, that's where it's called the Nandi bear. Although the cryptid slash monster here has several other names, another name that it gets is called the carrot bear, Kerit. Others call it the Pocomo. Another tribe calls it the Guloko.
The carrot bear, huh? Maybe because it's golden colored, and if it's golden colored, maybe it's the Nemean lion. Could be the Nemean lion.
So it all depends on the type of tribes that are coming across it and the base and the various names that they've come up with for this particular monster. It's very unique because one thing that's tied to this monster is that there's nothing tied to it. There's nothing that is concrete. Various tribes and various encounters all have different variations of the encounters, including how it looks like, how it acts, what it does, its name.
Are there parrots there that I want to go to a bar with the parrots that cuss, like like at a zoo or something, where they put all the parrots that cuss, and maybe monkeys too, around a bar where you sit there and drink and just interact with the parrots, just talk to them and stuff, like an adult petting zoo with drinks. Would you all come to that if I opened up an adult petting zoo? Now, obviously, the parrots wouldn't be for petting. You just talk to them. But we could have, like, skinks, like blue-tongued skinks, like friendly lizards, maybe hedgehogs and stuff like that. Just, like, and, like, stuff that can live, that could, like, sit on a table in front of you, not so much that you have to hold. That you can, like, have in, like, a thing in front of you, maybe tortoises. And you get like a little box of treats to give it, and you sit there and you have drinks. An adult petting zoo, like, yeah, and you'll drink your drink, and you'll have, you know, a little hedgehog or a ferret or something on the table in front of you, or a tortoise, and you can feed it little pellets of food or leaves or whatever. Oh, adult petting zoo has some connotations. You're not wrong. But you don't want to do that with the animals. The monkeys that steal your food. What we'll do is we won't have a whole bunch of monkeys. We'll just get a couple of monkeys, right? And we'll train them to go grab the tips off the bar and put them in a jar, and they'll get a treat for it. Right? So people will be incentivized to tip the monkeys. Because they get to watch the monkeys get treats and operate their little gizmo machine. I mean, you could teach the birds to do that too. Yeah, lemurs are awesome. It sounds like we're going over to Breeze and she has pets. I wish I had pets. I only have one pet now. It's a little spider named Carolina. She's a sweetie. She's been with me for a long time, but that's the only pet I have right now. I've downsized the Hive a great deal because of moving around so much. So, yeah, I don't have too much going on anymore.
Everything. So, a very unique monster, this thing called a Nandi bear. But here's the basic characteristics, at least.
There we go. That's the quality of bear jokes that I was expecting here. The adult petting zoo with bears. Now they would be in like troughs, like you'd have like you bring them out in like they'd have like a thing that they're in, some kind of containment, and they'd be on the table, but it'd be separate from your table, or maybe even have like a thing that snaps onto your table. I don't know, something like that, or it could be like down at floor level, and you sit at the table, and they're down there, and you can just like feed them food while you sit there and have your drinks. I'm not talking like little animals like tortoises and bunnies and stuff.
Of what people have said that seems to be in unison of what it is. Think of it like a super-sized hyena. And those that have gone on any trips to Africa or those that have seen anything involving documentaries on hyenas knows that they are a pretty set of ferocious animals. They're not exactly big hunters, although they can be whenever they hunt in packs, but traditionally hyenas are, for the most part, scavengers. This thing, however, the Nandi bear, is the complete opposite. It is absolutely...
No, the hyenas are not for the most part scavengers, Fernando. Hyenas are one of Africa's top predators. They surpass lions. Their success rate is only surpassed by African wild dogs, I believe. So no, they're not scavengers.
A hunter, a ferocious hunter, a vicious hunter, in the sense that various places that I looked up information on the Nandi bear and various people that have encountered the Nandi bear state that everything having to do with this monster is that it looks to hunt very, very differently than anything else there in Africa. Those animals there pretty much hunt only for food, or hunt out of a sense, in some cases, of protection when it comes to their tribe. But this particular creature, no, it hunts for the love of it. It apparently hunts when it can, it enjoys it, and it does so particularly towards humans, which also makes it very, very...
I always thought I'd be a were hyena too. It's nice to know there's other were hyenas out there. If I had to be a North American animal, though, I think I'd be a were coyote. Yeah, zebra, big zebra. That's understandable. Your people have long been oppressed by hyenas, crocs, and lions. Why do you give the African wild dogs a pass, though? They drag you all down, too. Yeah. I think I'd be a were hyena, definitely. Don't make me bite you.
unique, because any animals that have been known to hunt humans there in Africa, it's been said that the only reason they're doing so is because they themselves are being attacked by the humans, and so they're wanting to make sure that there's this threat is stopped. And apparently also the animals that are debilitated or near death, they tend to hunt humans because humans sometimes are the easiest prey, depending.
I may be mistaken about this, Sumami, but I believe, yeah, the African wild dogs, the painted dogs, are the most successful carnivore and predator. Like, they have the most success rate of any carnivore and predator. Yeah, I remember the were hyenas from the croqueta from the first few, like the third episode of Buffy. Xander became one of them. Got possessed by it. They got brought the hyenas in from Africa or whatever, and they were quarantined. Yeah, I remember that episode. They had were hyenas before they had werewolves.
On circumstances, as opposed to, let's say, trying to hunt a gazelle, something that is running really, really fast and will just elude the animal. No, in those cases, then that's when they turn to hunting humans.
Yeah, but a house cat is kind of an artificial species, though. I mean, to an extent. House cats are really good hunters, though, like exceptional hunters. The way they proliferate is the biggest success for the house cat, though. Way more successful than any other mammal in that regards, besides maybe humans.
Not so with this particular nanny bear. It is said to pretty much only attack humans for one unique feature. It loves human brains. I know, as crazy as it sounds, but like let's say your average monster of the week in sci-fi. No, it loves human brains, and that's why it hunts them, particularly children and natives from nearby villages. Now, as far as the description of the Nandi bear, again, think of it like a super...
Yeah, I don't know. I guess domestic animals, they're like with things we made artificially. Like, because, before we domesticated cats, right? They were pretty, like the species of cat that became the domestic cat. They were pretty well isolated in Africa and the Middle East, right? That species was, but because they were so close genetically to European wildcats, to different Asian wildcat species, they were able to just kind of overlap with them and just take over their territory. How about humans stop messing with the food chain altogether? I get it, babe. Yes, I think that would be great. Yeah, let's see. A were coyote would. I like that. A were coyote. Ow. Or am I more felid or am I more canid? Do y'all think I'm more felid or more canid? Or maybe hyena. Maybe I'm a hyena. Or a bear. Could I be a bear? I'm not big enough to be a bear. I have to be a big person. Maybe I could be a seal, a were seal, a selkie. That's what they're called, right? Selkie. And I could actually get eaten by a great white shark. All right. Oh man, what an off-topic episode this was. Like, I went all over the place. But that was the Nandi bear, an African cryptid. Is it a bear? Is it a giant mustelid? Is it a weird hyena? Is it Simba Kubwa, a giant hyenodont holdover from the Miocene? Yeah. What do you all think? What do y'all think? I always say that when my dog scratches her back on the floor, she's a werewolfin, a were-elephant. Am I a were-elephant? Oh, cool. I want a proboscis. Neat. Venus flytrap. If I was a plant, I think I'd be a rose bush. Yeah. You live a long time. You have thorns to protect you. You have beautiful blooms that all the pollinators want to come and sip on. Or a honeysuckle vine would be good too. You'll be like Audrey too from Little Shop. We watched that a couple weeks ago. Me and Ben did. It was a fun ride. All right. Well, as far as Cryptic Corner goes, I think that's going to wrap us up for the Nandi Bear, at least for this episode about the Nandi Bear. There's more Nandi Bear stuff to get into, of course, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The next thing we need to do is remind you all to vote on the polls, because you get to decide what we cover, what topic we cover, what subject we delve into when we do Cryptic Corner next week. These polls will generally be up usually by Sunday. Sometimes when I'm out of town, they don't go up until later in the week. But Sunday or Monday is generally I get them up. Sometimes I get them up the same day. Sometimes I get them up within a couple hours after I finish streaming. So make sure you participate in the polls so you can decide what we cover next. 3 of these will be back on the menu. The Men in Black, not the Men in Black, the Will Smith thing with like from the 90s. Now this is like the real folklore about the Men in Black from the 60s, or MIBs as they were often called. Big Muddy will be back on the list. Big Muddy Buddy. So if you like Bigfoots and hairy hominids, there's your guy. And we'll have phantom monks, which are ghostly monks. It's some strange phenomena. I don't know why monks want to be ghost all the time. So yeah, go vote on the polls. But as far as the Nandi Bear, I will call this case closed. Yeah. For now, anyway, we'll reopen it next time we look at a piece of evidence for Nandi Bear. Okay. Please remember to be kind. Take care, and we will see you next time.